everyone. Welcome to HR Works, brought to you by BLR. I'm your host, Steve Bruce. HR Works provides clear, relevant, actionable information on topics that matter to HR professionals. When you're armed with best practices, plus the knowledge to keep your organization in compliance, HR works. HR is a challenging and changing role for any HR department, but it seems particularly difficult for managers who are an HR department of one. These HR Lone Rangers somehow have to do it all. To get some insight on how to manage a small department, we asked Diane Breeding to join us for today's podcast. Diane is a bona fide HR Department of One manager with Edwards Moving and Rigging. She's going to be leading a discussion called Case Study HR Department of One Strategic Playbook for Leading the Charge for Business Success. And that's going to be at BLR's upcoming Thrive event, thrive.blr.com. Welcome to HR Works, Diane.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a great opportunity, and I'm so excited to be here.
It seems a common complaint of managers in one-person HR departments is that the never-ending press of routine HR activities doesn't allow much time for strategy. What do HR Department of One managers do to manage their time and priorities?
Well, I think it just depends on the dynamic of that particular, organization and kind of what the directives are. With my organization, here at Edwards Moving and Rigging, we are growing, and so as a result, and we do all of our recruiting in-house, and that would be me. So right now, about 99% of my time has been focused on our recruiting efforts. And so I spend, quite a bit of time outside of the normal workday doing other, I would say, HR related activities because I spend so much time recruiting right now.
Wow. Well, are there any parts of the job that you've found you could streamline with technology?
Absolutely. And for those organizations that are still working, in what I call the paper mode, where, employee files, I know there's similar organizations that have moved towards a paperless system, and there are still a lot out there that are still doing their onboarding and all of their employee files via, having those, paper folders and file drawers and things like that. Anything that can be related to onboarding, performance reviews, reporting. There are so many HRS systems out there that can function quite well and be able to streamline a lot of those HR processes.
Well, great. Now, what steps might you take to show management that you should be part of strategic decision making?
And I think that, especially for new HR managers who I think are just entering into that particular role and saying, okay, I want to get my seat at the table, so to speak. I can remember my mentor who when I worked for her, and this was back in my Bluegrass Cellular days, and her name was Sherry, and she was my director, and basically she gave me all of the opportunities and taught me, everything I know today, about human resources, and, and she said, I had to earn my way to that seat at the table, and what that seat at the table means is being part of that strategic decision making, and that's relative to the organization. And so when I remember her telling me that, and when I became a new manager, here at Edwards, I thought, well, gosh, I feel like I'm sitting in the exact same spot that she was in. And so, so it can be quite challenging. And so how do I overcome that? And how can other managers overcome that to say, hey, I want to be able to earn my seat there? I say, send them, good data on, what's going on in the workforce today. Send, send that team, Department of Labor updates to show them, hey, this is what's relevant to our workforce. There's all kinds of different changes that happen year to year as it relates to changes within the Department of Labor and how we employ our workforce, and they need to know that. And I think that someone who's engaged on that level, I think has a better chance of getting that seat, so to speak.
Great advice. Now, you've mentioned that HR Department of One managers need a short-term and a long-term strategy. Could you expand on that?
Well, I think it's a continual strategy. Yes, I think everyone needs, little short-term, goals and have a long-term, strategy for how they're going to, function in their department. But I think that there needs to be a constant kind of continual strategy in order to, what I say, stay above the water. Because, when you're an HR department of one and there is so much and you get overwhelmed, it feels like you're sinking. And so you have to have that continual strategy to keep yourself above water. And then, once you, fine-tune some of your, particular areas that you're working on, I think that will kind of help. But it's not just a short-term and a long-term strategy. It's that continual strategy.
Oh, great. Now, how about using consultants or attorneys to do some of your work? Do you recommend that?
Absolutely, and especially if you don't have other resources to bounce those concerns off of, I think that's great. I think what can be of concern is a lot of companies, I think, are running very lean, and so I think financially that may not make good sense for a particular organization. But I think you have to kind of prioritize what do I really need to consult our corporate attorney on. And so the way that would look is I would if on the really big issues, then consult an attorney. But for the issues that, gosh, I just don't know the answer to, or I need to, there's other resources out there to be able to gain that knowledge.
Have you found any particular outside resources that aren't as expensive as consultants and attorneys, but that you found can help you out?
Oh, absolutely. I'm big on networking, and I think having colleagues that are in the field are definite a benefit and can definitely help you out. There's been several times when I have sent emails to my colleagues saying, hey, I've got this going on. Can you what have you done? Or we've got this coming out. What do you think about this? And your local SHRM chapters. I think SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resource Management, is a great organization for human resource practitioners. They've got so much information and so many different resources for us to use that can pretty much answer, I would think, just about any question that we would have. There are local SHRM chapters that HR practitioners can get involved in and get those and get that networking opportunities. The other thing is there are webinars out there that are for free. Some of them you got to pay for, but some of them are for free that provide all kinds of information to you as an HR practitioner.
Well, thanks very much. How about the approach that says if you can improve engagement and retention, then you'll spend less time on recruiting, onboarding, training, terminating, and so on, and you'll have more time for higher level activities like strategic planning?
Well, I kind of ride the fence on that one because, I know that there are stats out there that say that, employee engagement is generally low anyway, and, retention strategies are good, but I think the dynamic of our workforce kind of dictates a lot of that, and I think that there are so many employment gaps and so many employment opportunities that I think generally you're just going to have that movement. And, I'm never in favor of, throwing money, out at an employee just to keep them, working for a company. And yes, we do have to be, I think, strategic on our retention, to hold them. But I think at the end of the day, I think what folks want is they want to feel valued. They want, additional opportunities. They want to be challenged. And if somebody else is going to offer those things, I think they're going to move.
Okay, thanks. Now, it's been my experience that HR Department of One managers are pretty proud of their status. You know, they say, I do it all. They're the lone rangers of HR. Do you find that to be true?
See, now I don't really know that many HR departments of one. However, those that I do know, I've never heard that, and I've never heard somebody saying that, hey, I'm proud because I do it all. That's and I think kind of at the end of the day, do you really do it all? And are you solely doing everything? And maybe you are. I don't know. I know that in my environment, in my organization, we're all one team. And if I am like pulling my hair out, I have, support here in-house that I can go to and say, hey, I really need some help on this, or I need some help on that, and I can get that. So I would never, kind of boast that, hey, I'm proud, I'm an HR department of one. I don't function like that because I'm in a team environment, and I think that we're all part of one team.
Okay, well, thanks for that. I understand that when you became the manager of this department of one, you were instructed to stay away from HR at first. What was the deal there?
Well, I wasn't necessarily instructed to stay away from HR. I just did very little HR activities for the first few months. And so what my CEO, who is the owner of the company, and what he directed me to do is he said, basically, I don't want you to make any major changes. Just sit on your hands, and what I want you to do is just learn the company. You need to learn, what we do as an organization. I want you to interview as many employees as you can, get to know them, get to know where they come from, what their backgrounds are, how they got to where they are today, what their challenges are, look at all of that. They sent me out on a project where I got to see one of our moves. And so, we do heavy haul and specialized rigging, and so we're moving great big pieces of industrial machinery that weigh in excess of 200,000 to 300,000 pounds. And, to hear it is one thing, but to actually witness it is so completely different. And I thought it was great advice because I think that in order to serve the employees that you are working with, you got to know and understand them. And so I thought it was very good.
Yeah, sounds like good advice for any new HR manager. So now,
absolutely.
I understand that you're just back from an interesting recruiting trip in Kentucky. Do you want to share something about that with us?
Sure, absolutely. So we're trying to come up with strategic kind of out-of-the-box ways to recruit because, a common denominator, I know in our state, I know in my area is filling those employment gaps. And so we need, with what we do, we need qualified, people to come work. We are growing, and so we need those qualified workers that possess, some very specific skill sets. So what I did is I reached out to a town in the eastern part, or I'm sorry, on the western part of the state, where the coal mining industry basically is closing and it's collapsing, and so the workers are being laid off. Well, these are heavy equipment. These are miners. These are coal miners, and they have heavy equipment experience. And some of these folks are multi-generational, families who have done this over 3 and 4 generations, and so they understand what it means to work hard. They possess that great work ethic, and so we looked at it and thought, gosh, this would be a great pool of candidates to approach and say, hey, we can give you an opportunity, to come work for Edwards. And so I spent a couple days in Madisonville, Kentucky, and hosted a career fair, partnered with the Kentucky Career Center, Job.net, and which they were so helpful. We have got a great system there in our state, and they were just so wonderful in helping get the word out. We advertised on the radio, and got a pool of candidates in to apply.
Well, great. Thanks very much for that. Now, do you have any final tips for HR Department of One managers?
Well, and I, with my presentation for Thrive, I talk about, different strategies. But I think one of the biggest tips I could give an HR manager who is a department of one is when you're overwhelmed and when you feel like you're sinking and when you're going, gosh, I'm not quite sure, take a step back, breathe, take care of yourself. Both mentally and physically. Find ways to vent those frustrations. I'm a firm believer that stress leads to poor health, and so to reduce that stress, find ways to kind of to pipeline that away, and I think, and hopefully come back and be able to be a little bit more refreshed.
Well, that's great advice for anybody, I think. Diane, thanks so much. Thanks so much for all this great guidance.
Well, I don't know how how strong of guidance it is, but it's what works for me, and I hope that if I can benefit one HR manager, then it was worth it.
Well, great. Thanks so much, listeners.
Sure.
Please let me know what HR Works should cover next. sbruce@blr.com. Thanks for being with us today. This is Steve Bruce for HR Works.
Join Diane May 12th and 13th in Las Vegas for BLR's Thrive 2016 event. In her insightful session, you'll learn business strategies that every HR department of one professional can follow to accelerate their leadership role in managing human capital and strategic functions for the organization. For more details, visit thrivelive.blr.com. The opinions expressed on HR Works do not represent legal or any other type of professional advice and should not be used as a substitute for legal advice from a qualified attorney licensed in your state.